All right, so once again, thank you all for being here and joining us for our second annual STEM industry panel. We're holding this, of course, a little bit differently than last year. Of course, this is a virtual event because of everything going on, but I do appreciate everyone taking time out of their day today. And, you know, this being election day, I am, of course, grateful that you are all here to join us to meet our panelists and hear from them about their experience in the industries that they represent. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by thanking our sponsors. All right, so I want to thank our sponsors that contributed to the planning and facilitation of this event, starting with the officer team and the faculty sponsor for Biology Club, the Office of Career Services, and the Innovative Pathways to STEM Success Grant team. Thank you all for being a part of this event. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our moderator, Professor Jared Tynes, who is going to get us started with panelist introductions. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, Mrs. Tynes. Yes, so we will go ahead and get started with our panelist introductions. So once again, panelists, as you see your name, you'll have between 2 and 3 minutes to just kind of talk about yourselves and your background, and then we'll move from topic to topic from there. And I will keep time, and I will simply flip to the next individual on the slide.
Hello, everybody. I am so sorry my video is not working. It's not that I don't want to be on video, but it's not working. So I am Amanda Anderson. I am a full-time physical therapist out in Fort Worth. I graduated from undergrad from SUNY Buffalo with a degree in Spanish. I'll explain. And then I went to physical therapy school at the University of Delaware. After Delaware, I moved to Texas and did my orthopedic physical therapy residency at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center. And then that's how I ended up in Texas, and I have decided to stay because it doesn't snow here. I was just recently hired as an adjunct professor at Collin College as an anatomy and physiology professor, which I am really enjoying, and I feel like that is kind of the direction that my career will eventually take.
Hey, good morning. My name is Venkatesan Pillai, and you can call me VP. I'm known by VP, like Vice President. I'm a cyber practitioner. I focus on different cybersecurity space, network security, data security, application security. I'm also a part-time professor at Collin College and Dallas Community College. And I also teach various cybersecurity courses. Also, I'm a New York University Cyber Fellow, like a Bridgewater Scholarship, and I'm pursuing my master in cybersecurity. And I'm a recipient of a Bridgewater Scholarship. My job is to protect privacy. I'm a privacy guardian and being a cybersecurity, not only helping protecting myself and protecting my colleague, family member, protecting the nation from the bad actors. I hold various industrial certifications, and I'm currently working for Boeing. My day-to-day job is to help and protect our customer, our employee, and their privacy. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brian Valenzuela, and I am a lead mathematics instructor at the Wiley Anthony Peterson Center for Academic Assistance, where I tutor students in subjects ranging from pre-algebra to differential equations. I have a degree in mathematics from UT Dallas, and I also have some graduate math courses taken. I've been a tutor since 2003. I started off at Dallas College, the Richland Community College campus. From there, I went in and became a tutor at Collin College.
Our agriculture representative Grant seems to be having some technical difficulties, so he may join us later, but right now we're going to kind of keep moving forward. Okay, so the next kind of theme and topic of our discussion today is a day in the life. So Panelists, once your name shows up across the screen, if you'll just kind of talk about what your day-to-day looks like, you know, what, when you clock in at 8 or 9 p.m., whatever time you clock in, you know, kind of what's on your plate for that day, how do you map out your day, what are going to be some of the major things that you're going to be doing on a regular basis, and then kind of how you wrap your day up.
Okay, my day start with basically I start with reading some cyber news. I always a big fan of learner. Even my learning plan is 20% of my work time to learn new technology, new cyber threat. That's very important being a cyber fellow. So what I do, I try to get what's happening in the world, what's happening in US, what's happening in my environment, and I start focusing my day. And I also work with the project team to help various cybersecurity related projects, right? And I also do monitoring and looking for bad activities. And I'm also help my team, not only my team, my customers, my employees, and educate them, create awareness. Hey, this is what happening in cybersecurity. There is a phishing happening. So be aware of the scale, right? How you are important. And cybersecurity is everyone's job. It's not only for set of people who are going to protect your privacy. So I help and create awareness, education, promote a cyber across the organization. My responsibility to ensure cyber is going to be culture and it is everyone's responsibility. Security supposed to be a built-in, not bolted on. So I monitor, I go and do hunting. Hey, why that event happened? What time it happened? And what is the motive behind on it? Those are the area that I focus. And I also help with how to secure data, how to secure customer, how to secure the financial data, organization confidential data, who is accessing it, how do we provide the secure access, how do we protect our supply chain. Those are my day-to-day job.
Okay, my job involves, as I mentioned previously, tutoring students in their math courses and assisting the manager in developing new student outreach strategies and overseeing the part-time tutors. As I said also, I typically tutor classes from pre-algebra to differential equations. And one thing that I like to say is this job requires me to learn a lot. So my job requires that I regularly seek new methods to teach math. I prepare for appointments by studying books and solution manuals. I have learned that what makes sense to me may not to a beginner. So I have to interpret ideas differently depending on the student's abilities and learning style. Having new strategies for expanding math concepts is necessary for reaching all students. Furthermore, in the interest of presenting new concepts to students during the pandemic, I also developed PowerPoint workshops on subjects ranging from row operations to the simplex method. Before the implementation of COVID-19 protocols, I developed and presented face-to-face workshops for students on a variety of math subjects. I also made class visits to inform students about the variety of academic support they can receive from the center or online.
I was talking and I was muted. Okay, so as a physical therapist, so I work in an outpatient sports medicine setting. So my hours and my shifts are kind of a little bit all over the place, which is why I'm able to be talking with you today, because I don't start until 1 p.m. So in like an outpatient setting, a lot of times you are required to work a little bit later just because you have to accommodate the people who are getting out of work and or school. I mean, normally school is a thing, but obviously it's been a little bit different during COVID. So 3 days a week. I work early in the morning. I go in at 7 or 8 o'clock, and then I work for 8 to 10 hours. And then I have 2 short days where I don't go in until 1 o'clock, but I have to work until 7 p.m. And so my main job function is treating patients. Like, I go in and I pretty much have my schedule set all day, every day. And I have someone coming in usually every hour. Sometimes I have 2 people coming in every hour. During COVID, I sometimes had people coming in every 4 hours. Like, just kind of depended on what day it was. But I am responsible for, when a person comes in, I'm responsible for not only kind of determining if they're appropriate to progress that day, but I have to take them through all of their exercises, make sure they're doing them all correctly, potentially provide manual therapy to the person if it's appropriate. And then in addition to that, document everything that I did in order to get it covered by insurance. In addition to that, I also have to make sure that all of the scripts are up to date. I have to make sure that people are scheduled. I have to make sure, I have to sometimes juggle my schedule or rearrange my schedule, because people unfortunately don't always come in at the time that they're supposed to, or they come in 30 minutes late and wonder why that's a problem. Like, it's so there's a lot of, you're essentially working with people all day, every day, which can be somewhat challenging in itself, especially if you have a whole bunch of people that are coming in and they're just doing poorly. Like, and so some people, especially on days I found when it's raining, like, everyone comes in and they're just miserable. And so a lot of times too, like, you have to take that and make it into a positive for like 4 people in a row. And so sometimes it's a little bit challenging to work with all sorts of different personality types, but on the other hand, it sometimes can be a lot of fun. You hear a lot of cool stories, you hear a lot of just different backgrounds and life experiences. And so it's fun, but it's also a lot of work. So thank you.
Okay, so you guys have done this a little bit already. So we're entering the biography section. So just kind of map out, and you can start as early as you want, but map out your path from education to industry. So moving from the degrees that you got or the experiences that you got as you were working through courses, high school and college, and graduate school potentially, right? And transitioning those into kind of your day-to-day aspect that we just talked about. So just kind of touch on that pathway and what that path looked like for yourself.
There you go. Sorry. Yes. After high school, I began studying for a degree in kinesiology, and in my 3rd semester, I considered becoming a medical doctor. Calculus was a requirement, and when I began taking calculus, I was hooked. The subject was fantastic, and it fascinated me. I ended up making an A, and my exposure to calculus propelled me to switch my major from kines to mathematics. After I received my bachelor's degree in mathematics, I took a part-time position at Collin College's Plano campus as a math tutor. A little over a year, I applied for and won a full-time position as a math instructor in the Center for Academic Assistance. I have since transferred from the Plano campus to the Wiley campus, where we're working on developing different strategies to reach students.
Okay, so like after high school, I went to undergrad as a biology and a Spanish major. The Spanish major was just, I really liked Spanish. It wasn't necessarily that I thought I was going to have any sort of job in the language arts or anything like that, but I ended up, I thought I was going to med school. So that was kind of like the path that I that I thought I was going to be on after graduating from high school. And then I was on the my college cross country team, and I ended up getting injured. And so I had to spend a little bit of time at physical therapy during my first 2 years of undergrad. And I was like, well, you know, this is actually kind of cool. Like, this is like, you get to spend a little bit more time with people. You actually get to know people. You're not just prescribing people drugs, like you're actually giving them something that can help them long term. And so I ended up deciding to change my major from biology to exercise science. And because of that, I ended up having to transfer schools. My college did not have a exercise science program until the year after I left. But I ended up transferring schools, and I was unfortunately unable to keep all of my biology degree. So I ended up I was so close to biology major, but then I ended up just they wouldn't accept any of my credits. And so I ended up just keeping my Spanish major, and I had a whole bunch of like science courses and everything. So I ended up graduating with my degree in Spanish with all of the prereqs for bio. And then I also ended up getting my personal training certification. And so I worked as a personal trainer for a while before I started grad school. And then I went to grad school at the University of Delaware. And so graduate school and physical therapy school is, you could say they're interchangeable. You get a doctorate in physical therapy. It used to be a master's program, but now, like, I think all but maybe 4 to 6 schools in the United States only offer the doctorate program. They don't offer a master's program in physical therapy anymore. And that seems to be the direction that like occupational therapy and speech therapy is taking as well. Like, you get a master's in those in occupational and speech therapy, but I think they're all probably going to head into the same direction. So after you get out of PT school, you pretty much are, you know a little bit about a whole lot of things, but you're not really great at any one thing. And so that's what made me decide to apply for a residency program. With, after you graduate from physical therapy school, you are licensed, as long as you get your license, and pass the boards, you are licensed to treat. Like, it's not like med school where you have to do a residency program. And until that point, you're not considered like a practicing physician. When you graduate from PT school, the residency is optional. It just gives you a little bit more mentorship. It gives you some more hours, so you're able to take a specialty board certification. Mine is in orthopedics, but in physical therapy, there are a lot of different avenues that you could go down. There's orthopedics, there's sports, there's geriatrics, there's cardiopulm, there's a whole bunch of different avenues that you can go down. And so I did that for a year, and then that's how I ended up working in the setting that I'm in now. Thank you.
My interest with the cyber started when I learned or when I came to know online banking, and especially with the ATM, while my dad used to give me an ATM card with the PIN number to go and withdraw money. That's where I have my area of interest have been started and questioning it. What happened if someone having that ATM card or debit card with the PIN number, right? The PIN number was not secure, right? It's a default PIN number. Anyone can easily guessable. That's where my area interest started with the cyber. Then I did and then I also liked it, wanted to have my own website. And I was very excited about information technology. Then I was very good at mathematics, and in the school days, and I used to score 100 out of 100, 10 out of 10 all the time. Then I did how to go to electrical and electronics engineering. But my dream always was towards something related to computer. Then I started to doing some kind of a hardwaring, like working with the oscilloscope, the chip, like different chips and things like that. From there, I started to pursue, and I know that if I wanted to be in a cyber, I have to acquire the skill and knowledge. And I started to read a certification then I did enroll into my information technology in bachelor degree. I have a 2 bachelor. One is in electrical and electronics, and then I did my information technology. Then I started to become like a certification. I also had a vision what I wanted. So I started to apply in any job that has a cyber or security in it, right? It doesn't, I'm not worried about that point in time, what experience, what skill demanded. I'm passionate about the cyber. I wanted to get into the job and I'm going to continuously learning on it. So I'm a student, I'm a proud student, and I wanted to be a student all the time in my life. So learning is not one stop. It's supposed to be in a continuous learning. So I started to occur, and I was doing some electrical work, and I got my first job into the network security. And the manager who hired me was told me after 2 years, I hired him because he is very good what he's doing it and very clear on vision. Even I didn't know that strategic at that time point, but all I know that I wanted to be in a cyber fellow. I wanted to be a protector. I wanted to be a guardian and things like that. So I got my degree in my information technology, and then I got a job, and then I started to focus on various industry certification, and I'm still doing my master in New York University. That's how I end up into getting into the industry. I learned by going to an interview and a lot of things. I attended hundreds plus different interview. Every time they ask different questions. So I go and document, hey, looks like the industry need, a company need this specific skills. And I find a way to learn those skills. So that tells me, that's giving me an idea that I have to have these many skills. And then I started to acquire those skills. And I make myself to be ready to move on to the industry. And I have to justify the hiring manager that I am your guardian. I'm going to protect your company. That's what will keep going on my mind. So I was very successful. I got multiple jobs, and my first job took not long time after multiple interview, and that's how I transformed from an education to student to be in an industry.
Thank you. And we're going to play off of kind of what you guys have talked about. So I'm going to work my way backwards just a second. So I'm going to start with you, VP, and then we're going to work our way backwards real quick. I'm just curious, you talked a lot about learning. So just if you guys could all just give me the primary or the top maybe 2 places that you go to continue to get industry knowledge on a regular basis as you continue to learn and grow in your job. So be thinking about that. VP, let's start with you, and I'm going to work my way backwards.
Yeah, one thing I do that find out the mentorship, right, in industry, right? Connect with who is the pioneer in the industry, right? That's where you need to start with that. One thing when I was a student, I had a clear vision and goal, what I wanted to do, but I failed to have my mentor, okay? Until today, I have a mentor, and I have not only one mentor. Once I know what I wanted to do, and I started to research who is excel in this field, who is the expertise in this field, and I don't hesitate to reach them my mentorship, and I send them an email, I send them a text message, because I'm very hungry or die to get someone to help me to achieve this goal. Any input is going to be, any single thing is going to make the change in my life. So that's how I look into that. One thing that I always say, that mentorship, and try to connect with the industry. The other thing that I would say, that you have to go to various conference and the various CTF event in my field, what we call to capture the flag. So we have a game that we play on every day. It's not that I learned and I'm expertise. And I started to use a practitioner, right? The reason why my wife is a dentist, after I met my wife, and they say, all the doctors, they say, I'm practicing here. And I met a doctor, if you notice the 60, 70 years, he would have done thousands of surgery. And he's going to say that I'm not an expert on heart expert, right? They will say that I'm a practicing at this facility, this hospital. So when the doctor says, that's where I realized, even cyber, we cannot say that I'm an expertise anymore, right? And I worked for 17 years, and I said, I'm learning, I'm practicing cyber. So that has to be have in a keep mindset. In cyber is actually a very interesting field. Once you get into the hunting, once you get into the offensive side or defensive side, it will keep motivate you, and those are the things that I would recommend.
Awesome, thank you.
So as a physical therapist, you have to renew your license every 2 years, at least in the state of Texas. So it's different depending on what state you live in. In the state of Texas, it's every 2 years. You have to do or complete 30 continuing education hours. So there are a lot of different options for that, unless of course it's during COVID. But you can go to like a physical therapy conference. You can go to a private physical therapy course. You can take courses online. You just have to make sure that the continuing education hours that you're doing are accepted by the State Board of Physical Therapists in the state that you're living in. And so a course that I do in Texas might not transfer over to a course that I try to do in Oklahoma. So you just have to make sure that you're doing work that is going to be counted. In addition to that, I also had to renew my orthopedic board specialty certification. So like I had to go and I had to put in all of my specific hours, like mentoring students count. Like we get a lot of volunteer students where I work. And so I also help with mentoring some of the physical therapy students that come in. And so I also am teaching an A&P class, which will count towards my hours, towards maintaining my physical therapy license. So there are a lot of different ways that you can get your hours. It's just a matter of what you feel like is important and how much money you want to spend.
Okay, so for me, was the question getting continuing education or?
Yeah, so just kind of how you stay up on the industry and what you kind of where you go to access continued information about what you need for your job.
Yeah, well, since I'm a math tutor, obviously I have access to the current editions of the textbook we use, along with the instructor solutions manual, and I'm constantly looking up questions, how the book says it and how the manual says it. I also have access to online homework software that allows me to see problems that students see themselves when I help them, and I can kind of see through an example how to solve it and apply those techniques into helping a student. I also have a great deal of math professors here where I can go and ask some questions myself. Hey, could you look at this? Any recommendations on how to solve it better? And I do that often. And I'm looking into attending math conferences next year. I don't know how that's going to work out with the current situation, but those are some of my sources that I get information from. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, let's move on to the next theme, and this is referred to as field and focus. So specifically, we're just curious as to if there's any current trends in your career fields, right, that students should be aware of, kind of what it takes to get started, and any essential steps that students should be taking to become a professional in your field. And you can say any kind of generalized trends, and then let's expand on that a little bit. Kind of how has COVID shifted the industry, and what are you guys doing in comparison that's different with the situation that we're in the middle of the pandemic?
That is quite a loaded question. So I think the trends that we're noticing is there are a ton of PT schools in the DFW area. And so unfortunately, COVID has kind of almost, it's kind of almost created too many physical therapists for not enough jobs. And so I know a lot of my coworkers, we have a residency program actually at the job where I am. And so I know a lot of my coworkers, or my, the residents that were there last year actually had a really hard time kind of getting jobs. Because unfortunately my Texas Health was not able to hire them like they normally do because of COVID. Like, we just don't have the census right now. And so I feel like before COVID, physical therapy was an excellent thing to get into, especially like in more rural areas, kind of like outside like the bigger cities. If you have a place like DFW that has like 4 PT schools, the market does get pretty saturated, and unfortunately the salary or hourly rates that they give you reflect that, which is like, I know that a couple of my coworkers too were like offered maybe $10 below the going rate for what a PT should be making. So it's been really hard. So I know that like it's a good field to get into, but it's also, keep in mind, if you don't have a scholarship and you're looking to go to PT school out of state, you're going to be spending about $100,000 on school that you're probably going to have to take out in loans. And I wish someone would have told me this, but the amount you get paid as a physical therapist is not going to help you pay off your loans within an adequate amount of time. It is not, you're not going to be able to do it. And so, unfortunately, in physical therapy, there are places where you can make a salary that will help you pay off your loans in a reasonable amount of time, but you have to work in home health, you have to work in a skilled nursing facility, you have to work in travel physical therapy, you have to do contract work. And so unfortunately, me working in an outpatient physical therapy clinic full time, like, I am probably making on the lower end of what a physical therapist could potentially make. And that's honestly, most people go into physical therapy school assuming that they're going to work in an outpatient sports medicine setting, or they assume that they want to work with athletes at like a school. And so unfortunately, if you want to make money, that is not where you should work. And so just keep in mind that if you have a couple different PT schools in mind and you apply to all of them and you get into all of them, you pick the cheapest one. It doesn't matter where you go, just pick the cheapest one, because honestly, my loans with the interest, I'll just give you my loans have more than doubled since I have been out of school. And so unfortunately, there's not really much I can do about it. I work at a nonprofit, so like, I do qualify for the 10-year loan forgiveness. But I'm only 5 years in, so I am a little bit stuck right now. And so if that's a situation that you don't want to be in, I just know that going into it. I wish that was I wish someone would have told me that. As far as getting into physical therapy school, make sure all physical therapy programs have different prereqs. Some physical therapy schools are like, well, we want you to have Bio 1, we want you to have Bio 2, we want you to have Psych, we want you to have Stats, we want you to have Calculus. And then some PT schools are like, well, if you have Stats and Psych and Chem, it's okay. So like, I know there was a situation, I was kind of applying to physical therapy schools in Buffalo as well as like on the East Coast. And so there was a couple programs that like I wouldn't have been eligible for had I decided to stay with Buffalo's program, because they almost make it so you have to stay with them because they don't have you take biology credits. And so make sure, if you are looking at going to PT school, kind of get a sense of what schools you're interested in, look at the prereqs and make sure you take those classes. Along the same lines too, you have to have physical therapy observation hours. So you have to go to different ideally different settings. They want you to, at least when I was applying to PT school, it wasn't as big of a deal. But now if you don't have like so many hours in outpatient and so many hours in acute care and so many hours in potentially even rehab or a skilled nursing facility, they're going to be like, well, I guess you don't really know what this is all about. So are you sure you want to do this? And so just making sure you have 100 hours in a couple of the different settings of physical therapy is really helpful.
Especially in a pandemic situation, we all moved to boundaryless organization, right? So there is no boundary. What that means is, and everyone started to adapt the remote. And most of the company have adapted and announced that they are going to have all the workforce going to be, or more than 50% of the workforce is going to be work from home. What that means is it creates a lot of we already have a shortage in the skill set, especially with the cyber. There are 3.5 million jobs need to be filled in, according to some of the research. There are a lot of demand. Even US has a more than 51% cyber security jobs are unfilled. So what that means is, after the pandemic, it could be doubled. I do not have a recent number, but since we move into boundaryless organization, the company that they're worried about their data, they're worried about their business, they're worried about secret, but they have no option at this point in time to move that workforce to remote. So once they move into, once adopted it, right, there are people who was very minded that whether should I allow my workforce to be a remote, right? What are the security? Not every organization has adopted. Only the top technical or top industry was adopting and allowing people to work from home, and especially only for a certain business people. What that means is like a developer or IT related function. Now the entire business, after the pandemic, especially with the lockdown, they do not have an option. If they wanted to sustain in the business or retain in the business, they have to make that workshop to be work remote. That created a lot of job opening, and that the cyber fellow has to protect their data. And how do I make sure that my data, my financial data, or privacy of any individual, their customer, and business data has been protected. We already have a shortage, and then the pandemic also created or doubled that shortage of the cyber skill. So there are two areas in a cyber. One is the defense side of it, or or offensive side. What is that offensive side? It's a very interesting, right? What the hacker thinks. It's called ethical hacking. The company started to hire, hey, how we can hire a third-party, non-independent cyber security practitioner to test their application. Hey, can you hack my application? Think like a hacker, right? So I'm going to get into a break into all your security control to gain access to that your credit card data or your personal data. If you look at the data breach has been reported or going on every day, right? We have a portal called Wall of Shame of Wall. Hall of Shame, which is all the healthcare. If you have a breach, data breach, you have to report to that state, and then your company or your medical practice center will be in the Wall of Shame. So nobody wanted, even though, for example, if you go to dental office, right? If the dentist, it's a small dental practice, and they have a patient, like consider the doctor store your x-rays and store your treatment on a laptop. They don't have a big facility. Maybe only 2-3 employees are working, one receptionist, one assistant. They have a data of their customer, the patient data. If that particular laptop get lost, and the doctor is responsible to answerable. And if it is a more than 500 data has been breached, you have to report to that. So there is a demand in everywhere, and we have a shortage. So you have to choose, once you decided what area that you wanted to go in cybersecurity, whether defensive side or offensive side. But the basic we need to build that basic foundation.
I always advise math majors to learn to program. This will enable them to find jobs outside of education. My job does not require programming. So Furthermore, I also recommend math majors know statistics. Industries involving finance and actuarial science involve knowledge of not only math, but also programming and statistics. So those are the trends that I can state in my job as a tutor. And to advance, I would say a way to obtain full-time tutor jobs in academia is by first working as a part-time tutor and learning the soft skills it takes to connect with the student in need of assistance. And this is a very important thing here that we emphasize. It can be for a tutor or teacher of any sort, and also any subject of any sort. It does not matter how well a tutor knows math if they can't connect on a human level with the person being tutored. So having those skills can be very helpful in my job. So.
And Brian, how has COVID altered this?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it has changed dramatically the way we operate. All semester we've been operating by appointment only. Whether we used to have an open math lab where students can come in anytime and sit down and get help, but that didn't ensure 6 feet of distance. So we decided back in August to have appointments only for math tutoring, and we have a room that's called the math lab, and we have different areas of the room where tutors sit down with a whiteboard, and then they're able to maintain a 6 feet of distance, and they can write on the whiteboard, and the student can, tell them what they're seeing on the screen. So that has changed a lot as from last semester in the spring, or early spring, and then before the early spring. So that's how we have changed our approach. So
awesome, thank you. Okay, so our last topic of discussion, our theme of discussion is time machine. So just if you could give yourself advice as you were going through your undergraduate degree, what would you tell yourself? What would you recommend you did more of? What would you recommend that you did less of to be potentially to help you where you're at, or or push you further in your career yourself? So just kind of think back to what would be some advice that you would give yourself.
Just knowing what I know now, I wish I would have done something a little bit more with, I don't want to say teaching, but maybe like education, like taking some education courses, even if it didn't result in like a major, just so I, kind of like what Brian was talking about, as a physical therapist, once you go to PT school, you pretty much can work as a PT. Like there's a lot of different avenues in PT that you can do. Like there are some non-clinical options, and there are some other avenues that you can take. But I am kind of looking at this point to potentially start to transition to a little bit of more of a non-clinical role, and kind of focusing more on my teaching and kind of working with students. And so I wish I would have planned for that a little bit better, but at the time I had no idea that I thought that was going to be what I wanted to do. I mean, I probably should have figured it out, because I also did a lot of like biology tutoring and nutrition tutoring, and I did some Spanish tutoring. Like I did all of that, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then part of the reason I wanted to do a residency, not only for the increased mentorship after I graduated, but also to work with the physical therapy students that were going through physical therapy school when I was doing my residency. So I kind of had set myself up to be a teacher. I just didn't realize it until about last year. So it definitely was something that I wish I would have spent a little bit more time kind of honing and actually doing a little bit more formal training on some teaching. But hindsight is 2020. Thank you.
I wish the three things that I would have done it better are, if I wanted to go back, right? One is the identify having a mentorship that I failed to do when I was in a schools, and I focused more on the technical skills. I did not focus more on the soft skills. So it has to be go to hand in hand. So you spend a lot of time and acquiring your technical skill and improve and learn new things, but the same equivalent amount of time need to be put together on your soft skill, communication skill, and different soft skill, right? How do you communicate and how do you work with the people and things like that. The third major thing that I wish I would have done it better, or the community, participate into the community, voluntary job related to any field, right? That helps me to the networking. Also that, participate in the CTF and things like that. There, we used to live in information age world. What that means is we have a lot of information that, and due to the information age, I was able to acquire a lot of skills and knowledge and available to me. But I failed to do that lot of voluntary job or community event that I did fail to participate. So the three things: mentorship, soft skills, and then more involved in voluntary job, and especially in the community services.
Well, I'm very big on motivation, so and developing plans for yourself. So I would tell myself to always follow a plan. Don't just take random courses that don't contribute to your major. Maybe we all do that, but don't do that too much of the time. The plan can be your departmental plan for your major, or you can modify it to your personal life situation. You're more likely to stay motivated by following a plan. After every semester, mark off the courses you have taken. Seeing the courses marked off on your degree plan keeps you motivated and hungry, and helps you progress toward your ultimate goal of obtaining the degree. So I also recommend math majors to, if possible, get involved in undergraduate research. There's lots of professors out there that do research, and they're willing to take an undergraduate under their guidance, and maybe you can learn or solve a cool problem in modern mathematics with the professor, and that can help you also develop soft skills that VP was saying, for interacting, and also other skills like that. So those are my advice that I'll give myself.